All right, we are recording now.
Thank you.
So we've already talked about the age issue, and you're going to calculate the age again in SPSS and give us the mean and the standard deviation, so there'll be no question. And the next thing I'm looking at is table 2, I think it is. Yeah, it's the one in which you look at the data for your sample and the data for the normative group. And what I was pointing out is that there's a huge difference on most of these between your group and the sample.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's something here that doesn't. Oh no, never mind. I was thinking that these were subsets. Anyway, so and this kind of begs the question. We had talked about it. Is I think you got to do t-tests on the above.
I understand.
And the t-test that you do is there is a one sample t-test. Do you know how to do that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so, and what you put in there as the comparison number for your sample is the norm group sample. So for example, for this first one, you're going to have your data that's going to take the racial socialization score, and you'll do a t-test comparing whatever obviously 152.43 is what you get, but go let it figure that out for you. And you're going to compare that to the norm group mean, so you're going to type in that number, 170.1.
Okay.
By the way, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, I just noticed that. That's incorrect.
I'll put question mark on it to fix it.
Yeah.
But
that's incorrect.
and then you can add another column, or you don't even need a column, and you can put, now you'll need a column in which you put T. So I'm going to add you a column here, table, insert a column to the right. Oh, look at what I did here. I'm sorry. I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to go down here. Maybe it'll give me one over here. No, it did it again. Crap. Well, you add a column for the t-value here. I'm just going to break that down. Add a column for t, and then use asterisks to indicate whether significant or not. And then, of course, the footnote. You know what I mean by the footnote, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that will be good. All the other hypotheses you made at the end of it, you made a summary statement about, therefore, hypothesis so-and-so was or was not supported. I just for consistency, do you want to make one for the overall hype one? And also,
oh, I didn't do that? Okay.
No, you didn't do that there, and you also didn't refer to table 3. And in a couple places, I hope I picked up all the times in which you did not refer to the table. There weren't that many, but there were a couple. So you'll see a couple places where I said, mention table so-and-so. Okay. So every single other one, you actually gave us the stats. And here you don't.
Well, because I guess, because it was listed in the, because I just gave the stats in the previous paragraph, but I could do it again if you think for continuity purposes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, then you know what? Then let me go back to this, and let's do this one differently.
You see it's up there.
I see the table 3. Okay, got it. I think, so let me get rid of this, and here's what I suggest you do, is I suggest you take this whole section.
What section? That section right here?
Right here. This right here. Let's move that.
Okay.
Let's cut it out of here. Whoops. That's not what I meant to do. I'm going to do this. It's from here on. So from here, let's just move that. Because really what you're telling me is here you're not really testing the hypothesis per se. You're just saying here's overarching hypothesis 1. And
right.
And put that, I don't know, you figure out whether it belongs here you'll need some editing to make it, yeah.
Make it right. Okay.
You'll need some editing. It's probably not, yeah. Okay, so I'll get rid of this because that's now here. And let me go back and look at this beginning paragraph over here so what it looks like now that we've...
Right. See, what I was doing is, I think I was being redundant because, like right in this paragraph here, I had just sort of summarized for like all of them, centrality, racial regard, and for centralization. But
Okay.
you're right. I would just keep it very basic.
Yeah, and put here, I think you can say full detail on the analysis are reported under each of the sub-hypotheses for hypothesis 1 or something.
Okay, very good. I got it. That makes sense.
Okay. And then when you get to them, then that makes it that fixes that. Okay.
Okay.
And you might need to, I don't know, you have to make sure this transition works here. So I'll let you work on that. I'll put, make sure the transition now works with the above added in.
Got it.
Okay. All right. So everything is fine. Blah blah blah. Oh, you forgot an R squared, which is important.
It is.
Now, when you type this up final, you're going to have to put that as a superscript rather than on the same line as the R. You know what I mean?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know how to do that?
I guess I can ask my hubby to do it.
Because if you go under font, see over here it has superscript.
Oh,
or you
okay.
just click on
Is that how
and
you
type
make
it
it
to it'll come up.
that way?
It's easy. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, sometimes your wording is a little awkward because you're not used to writing research. So I just suggest in here, you said a positive relationship exists among each group. Well, a positive relationship exists between this variable and that variable. So just spell out what they are here among each group.
Okay, because I was trying to not be so wordy.
Or you could say in between these two variables, that would make it, that will fix it or you could say positive relationship. Now, between these, you have to say relationship between what and what if you're talking about a relationship. So that fixes it. Okay. You say here that a significant proportion of the variance is accounted for by racial socialization, and that makes it sound like that it's a lot. And I would say instead a small but significant because it is really small. So you're telling us it's a statistically significant thing, but otherwise it gets interpreted as the colloquial meaning of significant, like meaning a lot, and it isn't a lot.
Well, because of the effect size, we just looked at that, right?
Well, the effect size and the R squared, they're both really small. They're teeny. R squared is 0.06, that's 6%.
That was very helpful last week because I listened to our conversation, and that was very helpful about that.
Okay. I don't think you put the tables in here, but maybe I missed it, so just check to make sure that the tables are under that hypothesis 1, C, or whatever it is.
You mean making certain I put that, like, refer to tables?
Yeah. I mean, most of them I said you had it there. That one I didn't see it there, so I just typed it in. If it's already there, then just whatever. Okay, there are a couple places here, and I'm having a problem with that. You said centrality is not a good predictor of cultural distress, as less than 1% of the variance is accounted by racial centrality. And my question is, where do you get that? Because the R square here is 4%. So I don't know where that less than 1%.
That was going up to, hold on, I might have been referring to okay, what hypothesis is this? This is 2A?
I don't know. Let me go back up here. 2A.
Okay, so hypothesis 2A. I just want to look at the picture, make sure I wrote it correctly. So, adjusted R square is, well, is it not? So hold on, where am I? It is. It's about 4%. Okay.
Yeah. So you said less than 1%. Not correct.
That's not correct.
Okay.
That was a mistake.
Fix that. Okay. And here's another little editing thing.
That's correct. I was looking at something else.
And you make the same comment a little bit later on about less than 1%.
About 4%. It's 4% of the variance, right?
Right,
Is that
right. And
now,
that
is that considered? But that's still considered relatively low,
it's
right?
relatively low. But if it's significant, it's still, it's not nothing. It's something. It's not much.
Not significant for that.
Oh, if it's not significant, then that's the important piece. It's not significant.
Yes, if you can go back, if you can find it, can you find it at 2A? See where, go back, go down to.
What number is that? I can't remember now. Oh.
It was H2A.
Let me just. So,
It was H2A. It was H2A.
H2A.
Keep going. And so right there, if you can stop, and so I say that is not a good predictor of a culture of stress. The statement is incorrect.
Okay, so let's fix that. It's not a good predictor of stress because it's not significant. That's how you fix it.
Okay.
And that's the truth. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's not significant, so nothing else is relevant.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's good enough, Michelle.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And I still need to put the formula there. Okay.
Okay. So then we get down to the next one. Is this the same one?
Is that H2? Oh, you know what it was? It was I was breaking down to the neighborhoods. So that's still H2A. It was just looking at the, the 3 neighborhood compositions.
Yeah, okay, but let's see. This one is PS 1.03. Conclusion, somewhere at the table. And then here's what I would say here, I think. Conclusions of rationale, some of the total population with most of the community groups not showing significant results or something.
Well, none of them were.
Okay, then let's say that, with no significant results. And then leave it at that. It's a beautiful thing when you can simplify, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, this is it's like chocolate ice cream.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't like chocolate. Vanilla's better. Okay. So again, just a little editing thingies throughout here.
Okay.
HB, da-da-da. I want to check this one. Yeah, here I think here it actually was, 0.03, okay. So that one is less than 1%. Okay. So this is the mediator we didn't do. Now, I'm wondering, can you tell me what you think about this? There's a lot of information in the results section. And even the summary doesn't help your...
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello, can you not hear me? Oh dear, have I lost you?
Michelle?
I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening, but okay, I'm just gonna pick up the phone. Okay, so you said I'm wondering, and then I missed everything after that.
Okay, I'm wondering. There's a lot of information in this results chapter, and even your summary statement kind of gives the reader who's not been living and breathing these data a sense of overwhelm. So I'm wondering, rather than it's a lot. Rather than all these words, if you could maybe make a table which shows each of your variables. So you would have racial, social, I don't even remember what they are anymore. That tells you how.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
go back. Let me go back. So the very first thing you have, where is it? So you have racial socialization and racial centrality, racial identity centrality, and then you put for the sample as a whole for the. Didn't we do this at one point? Sounds familiar to me. Sample as a whole for the predominantly white, for the heterogeneous, for the predominantly non-white. Significant, not significant, significant, or whatever. And just have a table instead of all this stuff. And maybe just some summary statement, that the variables that were the most strongly related were blah, 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 and that the neighborhoods that people grow up in added very interesting information, which will be discussed further in the following section. Kind of gives you a lead-in to the discussion.
So would you like for me to do, the question is, and which I think that sounds really good, is should I focus just on correlations, or should I do regressions, or both with the table?
Well, you could put,
I think that will be sort of get weird.
Well, the thing about correlation and regression is they're really the same technique. The difference between them is that regression looks at more than one variable at a time. You only did univariate regression, so you essentially got the same results using regression as you did correlation. So it would be all right to just put the regressions in there, because that is really a stronger statistical.
Yeah, seem like more,
So just put the put the regression results in and I think that would really help your reader, because I started to read that and I was like, whatever, and I've been working with this, you know what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with your lovely writing style, because you're an excellent writer, but it was like, I don't want to hear any more of this stuff. Just tell me what you found, would you please? So I think that would help.
Yeah. Okay. So and I really tried to just capture like the big points, because I know that it was so many so many little nuances there that I'm sure by the time the reader gets to that part, they just really want to know the nuts and bolts of
what's the bottom line, lady? Could you just tell me what you found? Right. and then when you go to your discussion, then you can discuss the variables, not the hypotheses. What have we learned about racial socialization? What have we learned about identity as it relates to centrality, or da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da? Because that in the discussion, we want to get back to the conceptual stuff. You didn't do this to do regressions and to look at hypotheses. You did this because you wanted to know something about the variables in particular that you studied. So now that we finished it and we know what the stats tell you, well, okay. So what have we learned? What do we now know about these constructs that you began with? Mm-hmm. And that's really the fun, creative part that you get to work on. I'm going to close this up. I think we've gone through this in as much detail as we are going to go through. And I will just close this up and save it, and I'm going to send it to you right now because I forget.
So I have just a few questions, stylistic. Two things. I'm going to do the one sample t-test. Do I report the results in this chapter or in? Or
I don't think you really need to. Just put it in the table unless it's okay, wait. Let me revise what I just. Let me do this. I'm not multitasking all that well. Okay. The reason I think you wanna maybe mention it is when you describe the instruments, right underneath the table where you get, where you show the things, you can indicate that your sample probably, my guess is really significantly different from the norm group. And then in your discussion, when you talk about your findings, you're going to want to maybe first start out with, I actually think I would start off with some discussion about this serendipitous thing that you ran into, that how difficult it was to recruit a sample of only African Americans from predominantly white neighborhoods. It just had a really tough time with that. And so serendipitously, because of the difficulties in getting what you had intended to do, you ended up with this 3-neighborhood scheme, which actually turned out to be the most interesting thing about your study. And so the study ended up being done quite a bit differently than when you'd originally intended. And what does this mean? And maybe that's not the first thing you start with. Maybe you end up with it. You'll have to see how it flows, because I think that's the most interesting thing, and it really speaks to the importance.
But it sounds like that's a very good tie-in into the normative group then, because perhaps because of the, like you said, the neighborhood schemes that I have,
right.
Now
your kids are different.
My group look, different than the normative.
Well, and maybe you start out talking about the normative groups and how your kids are different. And I don't think it's a matter of the neighborhood. It may be a difference of the intent of the study, because you originally intended to study kids who were growing up in predominantly white communities.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, right.
And maybe the kids that are in these normative groups are not. Maybe there are majority kids that are living in either heterogeneous neighborhoods, because there are not that many of them living in the predominantly white neighborhood, apparently, at least according to how hard it was for you to get this done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. See, I don't know the ordering of it. Somewhere in there, you still want to discuss what the meaning is of the fact that your kids are different from the normative group, and what that also means eventually about the adequacy of using those scales for measurement with these kids. Maybe
that's a good point.
And that kind of speaks to the discussion that you and I had, which I don't think you liked very much, but about the data which supports the notion that it's socioeconomic status and not race that is really the difference.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was hoping not. I mean, like I was looking for something different, Not that I don't like it, but it was just sort of like, that's not what I was hoping to find.
I got that. But anyway, that would be a place where you might, if you want to, because it's not my dissertation, but, if you want to, you might say that there's some evidence that shows that, and maybe this is what we're seeing here. Or maybe, and I think this is actually probably a stronger argument, of what, as a parent, what you need to do if your child is being brought up in a predominantly white neighborhood. Or, if you want your child to identify as being African American and that child is living in a predominantly white neighborhood, and, some of this is maybe common sense that probably African American parents who are doing that are aware of that they really have to go that extra mile to say to the kid, hey, you're black. And I know you want blonde hair like your friend Susie, but, you're black, and that's okay. That's a good thing.
No, I support that, and I think that it's interesting that you're saying that, Michelle, because I think that's where I started from.
Yeah.
I started with this curiosity of, like, what are some of the normative more of the specificity of concerns for black families that are living in these communities, like what's the extra layer of parenting that they have to do, for this population, and so. And
I think that's where I
started.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting part of your discussion, is to end up back there, because I think that's where it takes us. I mean, it's sort of the inevitable conclusion. It takes us there.
But I thought the point where we got really just because I reviewed our discussion last week this morning, and I thought the point that was really significant that I want to make was that one of those analyses we found that I think it was a culture of stress and centrality, that form of identity where it was high, like it was a positive relationship between centrality and a culture of stress among the heterogeneous group, and that was very significant, and that really gave us. And it gave me some ideas about, the forced choice, like where when people live in more homogeneous, whether it's predominantly white or predominantly non-white, the culture of stress seemed to be lower.
Right.
But with the middle group, a culture of stress was higher.
Yeah, like where do I fit? Which group? I mean, everybody's so different here. And that's interesting because everybody's so different here. So maybe I don't need to be strongly identified as a whatever it is, fill in the blank. Whereas if you're black in a white neighborhood, or white in a black neighborhood, by the way, then that sense of I am a black person or a white person becomes much more central.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're, in the middle there, it's those kids, according to the numbers, had a higher level of stress. So maybe this idea of forced choice. And I think someone.
But wait, before you go on about passive forced choice, what that also suggests is the importance of racial identity, and particularly the centrality dimension to somebody feeling, for lack of a better word, at peace. That where your racial identity is not as clear, and when you live in a neighborhood where there are lots of people from lots of different groups, it's really confusing, and that's stressful. Whereas if your racial identity is central and you're in those neighborhoods, you probably fare better than kids who's, in terms of acculturated stress, than kids who, for whom it's more dispersed.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Michelle. That's a really good point. So I like, and then there was also something else that the first hypothesis one, I was thinking about this this morning also, that hypothesis one where, we know there was a positive correlation, and that was sort of like a no-brainer, but particularly private regard was like the highest. And so private regard is like your personal feelings about being African American, and how racial socialization is connected at the highest to personal regard. And I thought that was good because there was a connection in the literature about like self-esteem, and so it's analogous to self-esteem. It's not
right,
a main thing, but personal regard, being proud.
Yeah, I feel good about the fact that I'm African.
I feel good about this, right? And so I was going to sort of tie in research that was very analogous to racial socialization and self-esteem. So even though it's not the same construct, it's in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, I think your discussion is going to be very rich. I mean, I think it's going to be a really interesting, exciting discussion. So
okay, so I'm going to do the age thing. I'm going to make the amendments. Do you want to see this before I traverse to Chapter 5?
You know what? I don't feel like I need to. I mean, when you send on Chapter 5, and I, maybe at this point, I forgot. Is Joan your chair? I can't remember. Who's your chair?
Who?
Who's your chair?
Who? Oh, chair. AG.
Oh, AG. Sorry, I just forgot. But, at some point you ought to get back in touch with AG and see what he wants you to do. Because, as far as I'm concerned, I'm really, really comfortable at this point with your doing whatever the little things we've talked about, the t-test and all that, and that table or whatever. I'm really comfortable with that and sort of working on your discussion and sort of, and then, getting AG back in the picture so he can where he, I mean, I don't want to take the chairing away from him. I don't want to offend him or anything, and he's very good at it.
This has been you've been terrific, and I've drawn heavily on your expertise, and I really thank you, Michelle. Words can't express. I mean, I was sort of teasing about how tough you are, but it has made me, I told my husband, like, I can't believe I can have like an hour conversation and 98% of it know what I'm talking about.
That's all that you're talking
and that
about.
growth.
But what's, I need to kind of turn this around for a couple minutes, Cynthia. One of the things that I have enjoyed is that you're a really smart, but more importantly, you're really motivated. And so, sometimes I work with students who's like, just tell me how to write. What do I write here? Just do it for me so I don't have to think. And there's been none of that with you, and that's been really a pleasure. So it's been a good. I think it's been a good. It's been a good partnership.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to reach out to AG, and I'm going to CC you and just let him know where I am,
great.
And that we're going to wrap up, and I'm going to start Chapter 5.
Wonderful. Terrific.
Thank you so much.
Hey.
Listen, have a wonderful, happy holiday season, and I'm sure that you will be in touch email in the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'll let you know where it is. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so
All right.
much. Bye-bye.